Boston Celtics in turmoil, Jayson Tatum's injury, and the trade storm threatening Boston's balance. This might be the most unpredictable moment the Boston Celtics have faced in years. The franchise that once seemed untouchable, built on depth, chemistry, and star power, now stands on unstable ground. With Jayson Tatum's knee injury clouding the team's future and shocking trade rumors swirling around key rotation pieces, the stability of Boston's championship blueprint is being tested like never before. But is this the beginning of a downfall, or the calm before another Celtics resurgence? Before we dive deep into this storm, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash the hype alert, because what's happening in Boston right now could redefine the next decade of Celtics basketball. The tension in Boston isn't just about one injury. It's about the domino effect it could unleash. When reports confirmed that Tatum's ACL rehabilitation was progressing slower than expected, fans across the league gasped. The face of the franchise, the player whose leadership carried Boston through countless playoff battles, might not be at full strength when the season begins. And without him, every strategic decision becomes a high-stakes gamble. But the shock didn't stop there. Just weeks after the departures of Al Horford, Kornet, and Kristaps Porziņģis, the Celtics find themselves without a true starting center. The paint, once guarded by veterans with intelligence and size, is now a question mark. Brad Stevens is walking a tightrope between maintaining flexibility and keeping Boston in contention, knowing that one wrong move could unravel the balance that took years to build. And then came the trade noise. According to Athlon Sports, a potential deal involving the Detroit Pistons could send Paul Reed, Javonte Green, and future draft capital to Boston in exchange for sharpshooter Sam Hauser. On the surface, it seems like a minor adjustment, but beneath the headlines lies a deeper strategic dilemma. Should Boston sacrifice one of the league's most reliable floor spacers at a time, when spacing might be more important than ever without Tatum fully healthy? For Detroit, the motivation is clear. They've lost key shooters like Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and Dennis Schroeder, leaving massive holes on the perimeter. Hauser, who quietly became one of the NBA's deadliest three-point specialists, fits perfectly into their rebuild strategy. He's not just a shooter, he's a weapon that stretches defenses and creates space for young playmakers. But what about Boston's side of the equation? Reed brings energy and defensive grit, Javonte Green offers familiarity and athleticism, and draft assets provide flexibility for future moves. Yet the trade would also signal something deeper, that Stevens might be preparing for an extended stretch without Tatum at full capacity, prioritizing depth and adaptability over star reliance. Still, what nobody expected was the emotional shock this would bring to the locker room. Tatum's injury is more than a medical issue, it's a psychological test. Can this team rally around uncertainty and turn it into momentum? Can Jaylen Brown, now entering his prime, shoulder the leadership mantle once more, guiding Boston through another storm? Financially, Boston's situation isn't dire. After years of cap manipulation, the front office has room to move, but every transaction now carries symbolic weight. Trading Hauser could either be seen as a clever repositioning or a sign of deeper instability. The outcome depends on one unpredictable factor: how quickly Tatum can return to his dominant form. And then comes the haunting question that keeps Celtics Nation awake at night. What if this setback forces Boston to rethink its entire structure? What if the path to banner number 18 isn't as straightforward as it seemed after last season's dominance? Yet, amid the uncertainty, hope remains the heartbeat of this story. The Celtics have been here before. They've faced heartbreak, injuries, criticism, and doubt, only to rise stronger every single time. The same spirit that once rebuilt after Gordon Hayward's injury or navigated the Kyrie Irving era is alive again, burning quietly beneath the surface. The coming weeks will define not just a season, but an era. If Tatum returns strong and Stevens maneuvers these trade talks with precision, the Celtics could emerge even more dangerous than before, forged by adversity and unified by ambition. But if things unravel, Boston might be forced into a transformation few saw coming. What's certain is that the story unfolding in Boston isn't one of collapse, it's one of evolution. The injury, the rumors, the shifting dynamics, they're all part of a larger test, a test of resilience, identity, and belief. And as Celtics fans hold their breath waiting for the next update on Tatum's recovery, one question echoes louder than ever. Is this chaos a warning, or the spark that will ignite the next championship run? What if the storm shaking Boston right now isn't a sign of collapse, but the beginning of something even greater? The injury, the trade rumors, the silence from inside the organization, they're not just fragments of chaos, they're signals. Signals that something big, something unexpected, is about to hit the league. And this time, the center of gravity could shift toward Boston again, thanks to one name that's sending shockwaves across NBA circles: Walker Kessler. After weeks of uncertainty surrounding Jayson Tatum's recovery and the roster instability left by the departures of Al Horford, Luke Kornet, and Kristaps Porziņģis, the Celtics front office has reportedly set its sights on a solution that could redefine the team's identity. According to recent reports, Boston is predicted to acquire Utah Jazz's star center Walker Kessler, valued at $13.3 million, through a trade designed to stabilize their interior defense and inject fresh energy into their frontcourt. Now here's the twist. Less than 2 weeks before the start of training camp, Al Horford crushed Boston's expectations by signing a multi-year deal with the Golden State Warriors. It wasn't just the loss of a veteran. It was the loss of structure, leadership, and the anchor of the Celtics' defensive core. The front court suddenly looked fragile, leaving Brad Stevens in a race against time to rebuild a wall strong enough to protect Boston's championship dream. And then came the unexpected lifeline from Utah. Reports from Hoops Habit's Cal Durrett revealed that Kessler might be available, as he and the Jazz are not expected to reach an extension agreement before his restricted free agency next summer. The clock is ticking for Utah, and that opens a window for Boston, a chance to strike at the perfect moment. But what makes Kessler such a coveted piece? The 24-year-old, standing at 7 feet tall, has already established himself as one of the league's most complete young centers. Last season, he posted an impressive 11.1 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks per game, while shooting 66.3% from the field. On a struggling Utah team that finished with only 17 wins, Kessler still shone as a beacon of consistency, energy, and potential. Imagine what he could do surrounded by the discipline and ambition of the Celtics system. Kessler's presence could immediately fix one of Boston's most pressing problems: rim protection. With Porziņģis and Horford gone, the paint became a vulnerability. Opponents who once hesitated to attack inside now saw an opening. But with Kessler, that door would slam shut. His timing on blocks, his spatial awareness, and his efficiency around the basket make him not just a defender, but a deterrent. The kind of player who forces opponents to change their game plan. And then comes the strategic question that keeps fans debating. Would giving up a first-round pick and matching salary be too high a price? Or could it be the move that secures Boston's frontcourt for the next decade? Stevens has built his reputation on patience and precision, rarely making reactive moves. So if Boston pulls the trigger on Kessler, it would mean one thing: they see him as part of the core, not a temporary fix. But what nobody expected was how perfectly the timing aligns. With Tatum's recovery still uncertain, the Celtics are in need of a defensive foundation that can hold the team steady until their superstar returns to full power. Adding Kessler now would allow Boston to preserve its perimeter-heavy style while maintaining elite defense, balancing the equation that every championship contender seeks. The beauty of this potential move lies not in its spectacle, but in its subtlety. Kessler isn't a flashy name, but he's the kind of player who wins playoff games. The kind who dives for loose balls, challenges every shot, and dominates the glass when it matters most. The kind of player Boston fans fall in love with, not because he talks, but because he delivers. And what if the Jazz, aware of Kessler's value, decide to push for multiple assets? That's where the chess game begins. Boston could package Sam Hauser, along with draft compensation, to make the numbers work. Hauser's elite shooting is valuable, but if trading him brings in an interior presence who can protect Tatum and Brown's lanes, the sacrifice could be worth every cent. Still, one question remains: what does this move say about the Celtics' vision? It signals that Stevens and Mazzulla aren't content with survival. They're chasing dominance. They're building a structure not just for now, but for the years ahead, with players who embody the toughness, discipline, and unselfishness that define Boston basketball. And the timing could not be more dramatic. Training camp is days away. The league is watching. Every rival knows that if Boston manages to fill its biggest gap without sacrificing its identity, they could re-emerge as the most balanced team in basketball. What nobody expected was how quickly things could change. A few weeks ago, Boston's future seemed clouded by uncertainty. Today, there's a surge of belief sweeping through the fan base. A belief that even in chaos, this franchise finds its rhythm. That every loss, every setback, Every injury might just be the prelude to something even greater. So the question isn't whether Boston can survive without Horford or Porziņģis. The question is whether the league is ready for a Celtics team rebuilt around a new defensive force. Because if Walker Kessler walks into TD Garden wearing green and white, everything changes. And what happens next could redefine the future of Boston basketball. The next major Celtics move isn't about a superstar, but about balance. What if the key to stabilizing Boston's roster chaos lies not in a blockbuster deal, but in a familiar face and a strategic shift that could reshape their rotation entirely? After the speculation surrounding Walker Kessler's potential arrival and the uncertainty tied to Jayson Tatum's recovery, the Celtics might be preparing another quiet but crucial move, one that involves a 6'4" guard who once called Boston home. At the end of all the swirling trade noise, one idea has begun to dominate front office conversations: a potential reunion with Javonte Green, paired with a decisive choice that could send sharpshooter Sam Hauser packing. And while that might sound shocking at first, there's a logic behind it that few have noticed. Boston's current roster is built around versatility and precision. Yet, as the offseason unfolded, holes appeared that statistics alone can't fix. The loss of Al Horford, Luke Kornet, and Kristaps Porziņģis left the Celtics thin in the frontcourt, while Tatum's knee rehabilitation cast a shadow over their offensive rhythm. But rather than overreacting, Brad Stevens seems to be maneuvering patiently, keeping financial flexibility in mind. According to analyst Nathaniel Holloway from Athlon Sports, a potential deal with the Detroit Pistons could send Paul Reed, Javonte Green, and future draft capital to Boston in exchange for Hauser. At first glance, moving Hauser, one of the league's deadliest shooters, seems counterintuitive. His 42% accuracy from deep stretches defenses and creates vital space for Boston's stars. But the Celtics' interest in this trade reveals something deeper about their strategy. The acquisition of Paul Reed adds athleticism, rim protection, and energy in the paint, while Javonte Green offers something Boston quietly misses: explosiveness on both ends of the floor. Green's athleticism and defensive presence once energized the TD Garden crowd, but his first stint in Boston ended before his game reached full maturity. Now at 29, with refined instincts and more discipline on defense, he could be exactly the type of rotational piece Joe Mazzulla craves. A guard who can defend multiple positions, attack the rim, and bring relentless intensity every possession. But the story doesn't end there. Hidden behind this move is a financial dimension that could redefine Boston's flexibility moving forward. Trading Hauser's team-friendly contract might seem unnecessary, yet the ripple effect would be significant. By offloading future salary commitments, Boston could position itself for a bigger acquisition near the trade deadline, or even open the door for extensions that keep their championship core intact. The Celtics aren't just making moves for now, they're making moves for the next 5 years. And then there's the question of chemistry. Every successful Celtics team has thrived on unselfishness and defensive grit. Green fits that mold perfectly. He doesn't need the ball to make an impact, and his ability to play above the rim adds a spark that Boston has lacked since Marcus Smart's departure. Pairing him with Paul Reed, a relentless rebounder and shot contester, gives Mazzulla the kind of physical edge that can wear opponents down during playoff series. Detroit's motivations make this possible. After losing Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and Dennis Schroeder, their perimeter shooting depth collapsed. Hauser's elite spacing would immediately elevate their offense, giving Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey more freedom to attack the basket. Meanwhile, Boston would gain defensive versatility and a renewed sense of energy, crucial for navigating the early part of the season, while Tatum works his way back to full strength. And yet, the biggest question remains unanswered. Is this just a minor reshuffle, or is it part of a larger plan? Stevens has built a reputation for subtlety, never revealing his long-term strategy until the final piece falls into place. Could this trade be the setup for something bigger down the line? A financial and roster adjustment that leads to the acquisition of a major contributor at the deadline? What nobody expected was how this understated move could alter the team's dynamics. With Kessler potentially joining the frontcourt and Green returning to bolster the backcourt, Boston's rotation could suddenly transform from fragile to formidable. The Celtics wouldn't just be filling gaps, they'd be building a new identity, one grounded in depth, adaptability, and relentless defense. It's easy to see this as a moment of uncertainty, but the truth is more intriguing. Every move Boston is making points toward a long-term plan, one that balances short-term competitiveness with future dominance. A plan built not on desperation, but on calculation. So as trade discussions intensify and the season approaches, one thing is clear. The Celtics are not done shaping their destiny. They're rewriting it. And if Javonte Green's return becomes reality, it won't just be a nostalgic reunion. It'll be another calculated step toward the team's next championship push. If you believe Boston is just getting started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the hype alert, because the moves being discussed behind closed doors might soon shake the entire league.